As parents, we all make our kids do chores, mainly to teach them responsibility and life skills. But should you pay your kids to do those chores? That is the question. Behavioral pediatrician Dr. Tim Jordan is here again, and he always has good advice, and he's already shut me down. I can tell you that right now, because, and I told you this the other day, my feeling is there are certain things that as a member of our household you should be doing whether you're a child or an adult or anything else, and they revolve around, like I told you, not making my life any more difficult. Don't leave things laying around, clean up after yourself, that kind of stuff. If you can do that, then we can talk about, would you like to mow the lawn? Would you like to clean the windows? Would you like to do something to make some extra money? As soon as I said that, he looked at me and went, no. So, what's the truth?
I like to keep it simple, but also to me, if you're living in a community, in a family or whatever, to me, there's a sense of we're all living here, so we all pitch in.
Right.
And you don't get paid for that. You do it because you're living here. It's part of being part of this family.
Right.
And I think I read one time somewhere, I don't remember where, that when you end up paying kids for chores, you're converting what should be a moral obligation into a money transaction.
Okay.
Which that makes sense to me.
See, we're not that far apart, but my feeling is a lot of people give their kids allowances or whatever, and how do you feel? We're talking about two different things. An allowance and chores are two different things. But how do you feel about allowances?
I keep them separate.
Okay.
To me, it makes sense to sit down as a family and say it's not a choice that you don't pitch in.
Right.
Now, what you do, when you do it, we can negotiate that, who does what chores. So I would sit down and negotiate. Everybody does 2 or 3 things. There's a list of things you pick from. Then you discuss it, and when are they going to do it? And then you talk about how they're supposed to do it, so that's a job well done.
And then you share in the wealth of the family with an allowance.
Yeah, and the allowance, in our home, allowance was given when they were young because we wanted them to learn about money.
Right.
And you can't learn about money unless you have money. It's hard to have money when you're 6 or 8. So we gave them, not very much, but enough to be able to, when we go to a store, instead of saying, I want to, you say, great, you can get that, just use your own money.
Right, but if you save this week's money with next week's money, you'll be able to get the other thing.
But a lot of those chore things become really complicated. You know, I'll give you this amount of money if you do this, I'll take this amount away if you don't do that, and at the end of the week or the end of the month, we're going to tabulate all that. It becomes very complicated. To me, you make agreements about what they're going to do, then you follow through. And the important thing to remember too is that this is not a punishment. This is like, kids like to be helpful. Kids like to pitch in. My daughter's a teacher, and I've talked to other teachers as well.
What kids like to pitch in?
Every kid.
What world are you from?
Well, they like to be part of a community. At school, they fight for the jobs. My daughter has this job chart. And so the kids fight for those.
In the classroom.
Yeah, because they want to help out. They want to be valuable. It makes them feel like they're a part of something. I think we miss out on that piece if we're rewarding them.
So how do we do that then? How do we effectively do that and make sure that they understand that this is part of the reward system? Because they're going to come back and say, hey, what if I mow the lawn? Can I get some extra money?
Well, you start when they're little. So when you're little, if you're 3 or 4, if you make a mess, you clean it up.
Right.
If you make a mistake, you repair the mistake. But then when they get to be old enough, when they're 4, 5, 6, I think then it's time that they can start pitching in and doing things. And you give them a choice in what they're doing, but then you follow through. So they know that they're going to be held accountable to whatever it is they agree to. And that's really important, that they know that they're going to be held accountable to that.
Is there a negative connotation with that word of chores, do you think? Did you do your chores? I mean, it sounds so worky. Have you kept up on your whatever? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even know if we ever used that word. To us, we made agreements about how they were going to pitch in. There's certain things that they, whether it's cleaning bathrooms, vacuuming, the dishwasher, feeding the dog. There's a lot of things like that they can do, and that's just part of living. Now, for instance, when our oldest son started cutting the grass for me because I didn't want to do it, it took him 2 hours. We paid him for that, because otherwise I would have had to pay somebody to do it. When our daughter babysat our youngest son, we paid her for that on the weekend, because otherwise she could have been down the street making money babysitting for somebody else. That seemed a little bit different than, make your bed, clean the bathroom, vacuum.
Well, and by the time they're old enough to mow lawns and babysit, they are old enough to understand, and they've moved to the next level.
And they can make their own money as well.
So it sounds like you're saying, to come back around again, it sounds like you're saying there is that thin line between being paid to do chores and having an allowance and being part of the family and taking on responsibility. And that reward, I don't know if rewarding is the right word, but an allowance is kind of sharing in that too. We all have money that we spend that mom and dad make. You can be a part of that as well. But you know what? Dad cleans up after himself. Dad does his laundry or whatever. you need to be on the same track.
And if the tone of the home is one of cooperation and respect, you know, kids don't mind pitching in.
See,
because they do feel valuable. Yet don't miss that piece. They do feel valuable and part of something. That's a huge drive for kids. It's a huge
and I know
motivator.
you're here to educate the parents of younger kids and to help them with the thing. But this segment always becomes, you just show me where I screwed up. Every time you come in here, you just show me what I screwed up.
I'm going to reward you for this segment, by the way.
Thank you, Dr. Jordan. We're going to post a link to Dr. Jordan's blog, and it was an interesting read. You'll want to find that on our website, KMOV.com/great.